Welcome. Tonight we begin a long, slow journey through the quiet arc of a civilization that rose from riverbanks and desert winds, and then, over centuries, faded softly into the sands. Ancient Egypt. Not the sudden rise of an empire, not the loud fall of a conquered people, but a gradual unfolding, like the turning of seasons along the Nile. For over 3,000 years, Egypt was not merely a kingdom, it was a rhythm, a way of life woven into the cycles of sun, flood, and stone. So tonight, we won't rush. We'll follow that slow rhythm, starting at the very beginning and moving gently through time. A story not of kings and battles alone, but of farmers and priests, builders and scribes. A society that endured longer than most can even imagine. Imagine the very beginning, when the Nile still carved its path through unshaped land. Villages dotted the banks. People fished in dugout boats, shaped clay pots, and learned the ways of the river. They saw how the waters rose each year, swelling with rich black silt, and they began to shape their lives around this gift. Eventually, two lands emerged. Upper Egypt to the south, narrow and flanked by cliffs. Lower Egypt to the north, wide and fertile like a fan. For a time, they were rivals, but around 3100 BCE, they were brought together by a single ruler, a man called Narmer, sometimes known as Menes. He wore the two crowns, one for each land, and began the first dynasty. This was not the Egypt of pyramids yet, but it was a place of organization, of ritual, of growing complexity. Hieroglyphs appeared. Bureaucrats tallied grain. Temples took form. And the idea of divine kingship settled over the land like the rising sun. Then came the Old Kingdom. This was the age of the pyramids, the age of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. It was a time of great building, of central power, of ambitious vision. But it was also a time of heavy labor. Thousands worked the quarries. Stone was floated down the Nile. Bread and beer sustained them. The pyramids rose not from slavery, but from state power and shared belief. In this age, the pharaoh was more than a ruler. He was a god incarnate. The people believed their fate was bound to his divine presence. Religious festivals marked the calendar, and priests tended to the spiritual balance of the land. The Nile's flood was not a coincidence, but a blessing tied to cosmic order. And yet decline. The central government weakened. Famine struck. Local governors grew strong. For a time, unity frayed. Temples were neglected. The grand tombs of kings were broken into, their treasures plundered. Still, Egypt did not fall. It reorganized. The Middle Kingdom followed. It was a quieter time, more inward-looking. Literature blossomed, canal systems improved. The government reached into everyday life more deeply. Kings now listened, or at least claimed to, and the arts became more refined. Art shifted from idealized perfection to more natural human features. Statues showed wrinkles, emotion, depth. The writings of the time reflect uncertainty, reflection, even wisdom literature. Texts that pondered the meaning of justice, fate, and kindness. Still, even this order faded. The Hyksos came, foreign rulers from the north. They brought horses and new weapons. Egypt, for the first time, was ruled by outsiders. It must have felt like a fracture in time, but the Egyptians adapted. They learned, and they reclaimed their land. The new kingdom rose in strength and splendor. This was the age of empire, of Hatshepsut, the woman king, of Thutmose III, who led campaigns into the Levant, of Akhenaten, who tried to change the gods, of Tutankhamun, whose tomb would echo into modern dreams, and of Ramses II, who built monuments and signed the first known peace treaty. Egypt stretched farther than ever. Gold came from Nubia. Trade flowed from Punt. Temples towered in Karnak and Luxor. The gods were honored with incense, with songs, with endless stone. Yet beneath the surface, things grew complicated. Akhenaten's religious reforms, replacing the old gods with one, the sun disk Aten, disrupted the priesthood and the people alike. His new capital, Akhenaten, rose and fell in a single generation. His son Tutankhamun restored the old ways, but died young. The empire held, but trembled. Foreigners returned. Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians. Each ruled in turn, adopting Egypt's customs, revering its gods. For Egypt had become more than just a place. It was an idea, a pattern, an identity that endured even in the hands of others. Even the great Alexander came, and with him the Ptolemies, Greek rulers who wore pharaonic crowns. Cleopatra the Seventh, the last of her line, tried to hold the old world and the new. Her alliances with Rome, her command of wealth and wit, could not stop the tide of empire. With her fall, Egypt passed into Roman hands. The temples still stood, the scribes still wrote, but the language began to fade. The gods fell silent, and the rhythm slowed. In the centuries that followed, Christianity spread. The old temples were abandoned or repurposed. Coptic script replaced hieroglyphs. Alexandria rose as a center of new faith and thought. Later came Islam, Arab rulers, and Cairo's golden age. Egypt remained, but changed. And yet, it never quite disappeared. In tombs sealed with care, in scrolls tucked into jars, in carvings of reeds and birds and sun disks, Egypt waited. In the 19th century, the Rosetta Stone was deciphered, and the voices of the past returned. Today, the names of kings and queens are spoken again. Statues stand beneath museum lights. Tourists walk the same paths once tread by priests and pharaohs. But the true Egypt, the Egypt of rhythm and stone, of patient time and sacred order, lives quietly in memory. And now, as you sleep, you too drift through its memory. Past seasons of flood and harvest. Past kings and builders. Through silence and stone. And into the slow breath of time itself.